Hey, and welcome to another episode of Nintendo Bros Podcast. I'm Derek, and with me again is Peter.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U Nintendo Direct happening tomorrow.
Yes, so they just announced, this morning actually, that there's going to be a North American Nintendo Direct focused on Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is pretty exciting. I mean, I definitely didn't expect this so close to E3. The official announcement reads as this. Visit Nintendo.com/Nintendo Direct on Friday, April 24th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a video showcase about Xenoblade Chronicles X, an upcoming open-world role-playing game for the Wii U console. And keep watching after the showcase for a Nintendo Treehouse live presentation featuring the game. These videos will be available in English only. So, what are your thoughts on this? As if you just heard about it, Derek.
Well, I pretty much have just heard about it, but so I think one, we're gonna get, since they're doing a treehouse, we're either gonna get more details on, let's say there's co-op, because I know there's online co-op, so maybe we'll get some of that. Definitely some single-player gameplay. The one thing that I find the most fascinating is that since it's North American only, I'm actually expecting a release date announced tomorrow. I don't think they're gonna wait for E3 since if it's a North American only Direct and they already have a Japan release date. I really think they'll announce a release date. So that's the one thing I'm hoping for.
That's the one thing I'm hoping for too. And I think one thing to keep in mind is that sometimes these showcases, Nintendo releases them as if we haven't seen the Japanese showcases, which obviously, I've watched them. I think you've watched them, and we've even seen fan translations of them. So I think this might just be there's a chance that this is just the same thing as that with an English translation. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you mean because I know there was a one about the mech dolls that came out for the Japanese
Yep.
one a couple weeks ago, so it might just be that for English. You're right.
Yeah, they did one based on, I believe, like exploration, one based on battling, and then the third one based on dolls. And then just yesterday or the day before, they released a story trailer. And they've all been in Japanese and all intended for the ramp up for the April 29th release in Japan. So my thought is that the actual video showcase might just be snippets from some of those Japanese showcases.
And you know what? I'm totally okay with that because even though I did watch all those videos, it'd be nice to know those details in English. Because the online looks really cool, but I don't know how any of the guild works or the team works or the co-op missions work. So it'd be nice to hear that in English. And also, I picked up Xenoblades for the 3DS a couple weeks ago, so now I know a little bit more about the company and how this series RPG style works. So now I can kind of watch this video with a little more insight, which I'm kind of stoked for too.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, it's not really tied to Xenoblade, the
Not
original
not
Xenoblade, but
not story wise, but it looks like pretty
game
similar.
mechanics.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, totally. So I'm excited. I mean, like you, I'm hoping for a release date. It does say at the end here. I think the interesting nugget here is that it says they're going to do a Nintendo Treehouse live presentation featuring the game, which means we're going to see the members of Treehouse playing this game live.
And not just playing the game, but playing the English version of this game.
Well, they don't say that here, but we can more or less make that assumption.
Yeah, I mean, why would they? They're not gonna have all the Japanese titles while they're playing it on Treehouse.
Well, they did that for the E3 2013, or sorry, E3 2014 when they played it live. But I mean, if Treehouse is going to do a live presentation and the direct is focused on it, I think it's safe to say that they'll be playing a English version of the game, and it's safe to say that they've been translating it. They've been working on it.
Yeah, agreed, exactly.
Now, the interesting thing too is that they have not announced a European direct. And I have some speculation based on this. It even says at the end, these videos will be available in English only, which means, no German or French, or I don't even think the European directs are done in a European, in French or German or anything. They're in English as well. But the fact is they've only announced this through the North American with North American times. So for me, this could mean that they are targeting a different release date for North America than Europe. And it might even mean that it's coming much sooner than we expect to North America.
So I definitely think Europe almost always, except for maybe Yoshi's Woolly World, always gets the Nintendo games significantly later. I mean, sometimes they get them at the same time, but usually it's later. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. I think the release date's gonna be a lot sooner than what we thought. I originally thought this was gonna be more of the holiday release, but I could see this actually coming a lot sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I know we did our predictions of release dates, and I think you said what, December for Xenoblade?
Yeah, since Zelda was delayed, I just assumed that this would kind of be their big holiday title because we haven't heard anything about Star Fox officially yet.
Yeah, I think that's set for a big E3 unveil. But as far as Xenoblade goes, I think this could be a summer release. And my initial prediction was August, because Nintendo seems to like the month of August for releases.
Yeah, I mean, August is definitely not out of the question. I mean, it really depends on tomorrow. If we don't get a release date tomorrow, I think it's actually going to be later than August because they're not going to announce it at E3 in June and say, or is it, I think it's June, and say, hey, it's coming out in a month. I think it's going to be longer than that.
I'll go as far as saying that if they show this E3, or sorry, if they show this direct tomorrow and they don't announce a release date, I'll be disappointed.
Me too. I think it's really weird not to do it, considering E3 is around the corner, which is a huge North American event. So
Now, I saw somebody post on NeoGAF. They said it's almost nice that they're showing this off now, as not to have it show up at three separate E3s.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
otherwise this will be the third E3 it'll have been to. I do think it's possible that they'll announce a release date tomorrow, and then at E3 they'll show it playable in English.
yeah. That sounds like a reasonable expectation, and maybe a few levels or whatever. They might even announce the European launch eventually, maybe at E3. I know it's not really a European event, but
Yeah, I mean, and my thought is that the reason that Yoshi's Woolly World is coming out in June in Europe is because they have this summer gap that North America will be filled by Xenoblade Chronicles X.
oh, that's a good point. And they haven't talked about when Yoshi's Woolly World's coming out for North America, have they?
They said fall.
Okay, so I mean that's kind of a pretty big indicator too, because you don't often get European games coming out before North America.
Well, especially not a game like Yoshi that's a popular series in North America, a popular character, and coming out in June in Europe in fall. Like I understand late summer, I understand September release, but it almost sounds like it's going to be a October or November release.
Yeah, which is a pretty significant delay between that and Europe.
Especially for a game that probably doesn't. I mean, if a game comes to Europe, it's already in English.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
So I really do think that perhaps they pushed forward on Xenoblade Chronicles X. I always speculated it'd have kind of a surprisingly early release date in 2015, and they probably pushed the English translation of that, and then they're just taking a little bit of extra time for the German, French, Spanish, and whatever other languages they're going to put it in for Europe.
yeah, totally. Because I mean, if they're this game is going to be a huge game if we know from Xenoblade for the Wii or 3DS, and there is a lot of voiceover and dialogue. So if they do other languages, it will be a hefty take a lot of hefty work.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you think? When do you predict that Xenoblade Chronicles X will come out?
So I mean, I'm pretty on board with your August theory. If we find out tomorrow, if we're gonna wait till E3 and we don't hear about it tomorrow, I think it could be a lot later, the holiday or even into 2016 early.
Okay, I mean that's my prediction as well. Is that it'll get an August release, probably early August, because it wedges in very nicely between the late May release of Splatoon and the late September release of Mario Maker. And Nintendo seems to be toxic about releasing in July. And as far as June goes, I feel like we would already know about it if it was June.
Yeah,
It just seems a little bit too close to the release to say, hey, we're gonna on April 24th, we're gonna announce it's coming in June. Now there was that leak that it was gonna come, I think June 24th. There was some sort of leak, but I don't know if that was debunked or not.
I know nothing about that leak.
Okay, well, I think it was just some French website, just some nonsense again on a French website. Who knows? So yeah, my prediction is that tomorrow at this direct, we're gonna see probably some rehashed information from the Japanese Xenoblade X showcases, and then followed by a Treehouse Live presentation where they're playing it, showing us more of what we've seen probably. And I'm gonna lay my prediction down that it gets a August release date. And do we predict months or no? Do we just predict? Do you remember? When
we predicted months. We didn't predict days.
We didn't. Okay. I'm gonna predict it's gonna be early August.
I mean, I definitely think August is definitely the question. I don't know whether it's gonna be early or late. That's way above my head. But yeah, I'm definitely agreeing on August on that one.
Now, there's one more speculation before we wrap up here that I read that maybe they are gonna announce tomorrow that it's delayed to early 2016.
Yeah, I actually think that's not crazy far-fetched either, just because this game is huge, and again, I don't know how far along they are on the voice, and that's gonna be a big undertaking. And we have seen the online, and there's one thing we know about, Nintendo owners, is they want to see better online capabilities from Nintendo. So I think if it is delayed, it's to focus on making the online of this game something worthwhile and something that Nintendo fans aren't going to say, oh, this is another crap, this is another Nintendo online game. I think if they're going to delay it, they're going to make the online really superb.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, just because what's going to come out in Japan on April 29th or 24th, the end of April, is what's going to come out here as well. So I really don't think they're going to add any significant online elements to a North American release. It'll be the game is done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're not going to do any more development on the game.
Yeah, that's true.
It's done. It's done like dinner. All they got to do is translate, localize, and like you said, the record voiceovers or record voice actors. So I don't know. I don't think that would happen. If they delayed it, it would just be because they would take extra time or to fill in a release window that's empty as of now. But I mean, when I'm looking at Nintendo's calendar here, the big empty release window for North America is summer. They've announced games for September and the fall. We know Star Fox is coming in the fall. We know Fatal Frame's coming in the fall. We know that Splatoon's coming out soon. Mario Kart DLC just dropped. But there's this big gap between June, July, and August of what's going to come out. And this is the perfect game to come out during that gap. So I really think the only way they'd announce a 2016 delay tomorrow is just to get it out of the way and soften the blow. I don't think it'll be to add any features. I think we already have confirmed no voice chat, just to get that out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very unlikely to be a 2016, but I don't think it's a crazy rumor. But I definitely think it'll be 2015. I mean, they've already delayed Zelda. I can't imagine them delaying a second big game when they're only bringing out first party games these days, so they have to keep them coming.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, in all honesty, hearing about this direct tomorrow gave me excitement. It didn't bring me down at all. I'm excited. The fact that they're doing this before E3 really shows to me that it's coming sooner than expected, and they also want to leave a bigger E3 spotlight for other games.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
The F-Zero, the Paper Mario. All right, well, that just about wraps up our chat about the Xenoblade Chronicles X Direct and our predictions. Let us know what you think. Let us know your predictions, and we'll definitely be chatting about the Direct tomorrow and the results of that. So stay tuned.